Let's talk about some major news this afternoon from Camp Biden. Now, we were watching the Biden administration going to make this emergency climate meeting this afternoon and discussion. And as we were going on the air, we weren't sure exactly what the president was going to say, taking these emergency climate powers. But in fact, what he did was stop short of declaring a climate emergency. So we thought he was going to do that. The update now is that he stopped just short of declaring a climate emergency, but did take steps on wind power. But what this means is, in many ways, is dictatorial. Like, you can say he can just stop short of a state of emergency, but this is taking power away from Congress and putting it in the hands of President Biden and the presidency. So here's Reuters. You're going to take my laptop here. Biden stops short of declaring climate emergency, takes steps on wind power. Okay. So U.S. President Biden said on Wednesday that climate change is an emergency, but stops short of a formal declaration. Okay. Announcing a modest packet, I love how Reuters calls it a modest package of executive actions and promising more aggressive efforts. Okay. So modest, really? Let's go through some of these then, shall we? On what exactly is modest about this. Let's dive in here if we can. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You can take off my screen now because I got to go dig around for it. Natalie has it, though. No exports of U.S. energy. Okay. No exports of U.S. energy to other countries. No further drilling. Okay. No further drilling. So we're really making sure that the U.S. is not going to be able to get cheaper gas prices. We're not going to be able to maybe heat our homes this winter. The United States is going full on the green revolution.
Plus, no investments now in fossil fuel companies, right? Which is interesting because fossil fuel companies still get many tax breaks and incentives and all kinds of special treatment from the U.S. government. So will those things end too? I'm going to wager not. But we can say, well, we're not making new investments. A major push towards green energy. This, of course, goes against what the Supreme Court just ruled, which is that you can't regulate sort of out of the existing fossil fuel industry. But that is exactly what they're doing. Well, why, right? Why would the Biden administration do this? Because any climate packages that were put inside of Democratic packages have not been able to get past Congress. Just full stop, right? Because Joe Manchin has said he does not support these things. He does not support spending on them. So the president sort of feels like he has to do this. Now, may be somebody like me who thinks, yes, but I do feel like there is a climate emergency. I do have anxiety about the way the planet is hurting, right? I do feel like this is a time for extraordinary measures. But this gives the president, depending on how far he's going to go, it doesn't seem like he decided this week to go that far, but it could be just sort of dipping a toe into this idea of executive powers. And how far could this go, right?
This is really scary. I mean, you might have anxiety about this, right? And there's a reason why I might have some anxiety about it too, and we might all feel it. It's because we're constantly being told, and nightly newscasts, and constantly being told that we're in this dire emergency, right? We're being told that. We're being told that we're in this.
And it's extraordinary timing when everyone in the West is under, and anyone in the Northern Hemisphere is under these extreme heat waves, right? We feel it. We know that we have to make sacrifices with our air conditioning and our thermostat, and that kind of thing is happening, right? But if the president were to go as far as to declare a National Emergencies Act, right, this would give him powers to shut down or take over radio stations even, right?
So this is what you asked me to drop in here.
Yes, go ahead and pull this up. This would give him the power to, ban agricultural exports and freeze assets if the president deems such actions necessary to address a foreign threat. And in general, there is no requirement that the power invoked relate to the nature of the emergency. The president would be on the honor system. Now, this is the thing that gave me pause because what's happening in Europe right now? Interesting, right? It's certain countries are saying there's a climate emergency. They're putting these, some would call arbitrary, but we can agree that they are arduous requirements on farmers that may eventually put them out of business. And then the president would be able to seize certain lands if he decided that these are harming the
Guys.
environment. We don't know how far it would go and who it would hurt. And the worry here is what happened during COVID.
You're being too nice.
Let me just finish is that what happened during COVID, right? We all agree, okay, this is serious. We all should make sacrifices. Who makes sacrifices? People who are disenfranchised and less powerful than big corporations.
All right. But yes, no, okay, you're right about that. So it is the small people, right? It's the small farmers that would be absolutely crushed in the same way that, middle class and poor Americans got absolutely destroyed during the pandemic, right? It's the consolidation of power. When Biden administration cuts off 1,000 small pipelines that we don't even hear about, we just hear about Keystone, right? Thousands of small pipelines, right? The fossil fuel industry being run out, literally run out at a time when we have a crisis, right? We have an energy crisis. By the way, a man-made energy crisis by putting sanctions on Russia, by literally cutting down thousands of pipelines across the United States, making sure that we don't have any investment in fossil fuels.
By printing money out of control.
By printing $30 trillion or $5 trillion in the past few years.
Decommissioning nuclear power plants, which were cleaner than the power we use now.
Cutting off oil leases, right? When these companies have an opportunity to use it, you're pulling them right out from beneath them, right? So you're seeing an energy crisis of our own making. Western policies led by the Biden administration have led us into this energy disaster. It was all planned, guys. That's why I'm saying don't be nice about this. They planned this. They absolutely planned this.
Well, I just want to point out that if you look at the executive powers since 9/11, they have expanded the executive branch powers incrementally, and it's moving towards dictatorial. I mean, it is. If you look at the powers that they actually had, Obama was actually able to assassinate 2 U.S. citizens, and he had the power to do that without Congress. They don't even have to have Congress to declare war anymore. So it's they keep expanding those powers.
Were you saying moving towards dictator? I believe we're already there.
Yes. Every
administration
in the last 40 years has expanded executive powers, and it does not matter if they're Republican or Democrat. And no administration has come in and rescinded any of those powers. So the presidency, the executive branch, and the government continue to grow. It's a monster.
Well, and that's when I kind of lost.
World War II.
Yeah, and that's when I lost faith when Bush started the drone program, and then we had Obama, the peace candidate, right? Nobel Peace Prize winner, came in, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna get rid of the drone program. But what did he do? He expanded it by 400%. So it's it doesn't matter what party they're in, they expand those powers because that they obviously you have to have some kind of thirst for power to be in that position in the first place, I would think.
I want to go through some of the comments from the White House over the past 24 hours. And what you're hearing is this term about transition, right? You've heard it. We heard liberal world order a few weeks ago from Brian Deese, White House economic advisor. Now the White House is talking about, and this is coming right out of the mouths of the World Economic Forum, guys, transition. This transition period will be painful. This transition period will be painful for you not the wealthy. It'll be painful for the poor and middle class. That's what will happen, right?
Yes.
Let's speed up to the Green Revolution. Here's a White House advisor on CNBC, on CNBC, talking about President Biden's energy plans. Listen to him talk about the transition. Keep hearing that word. Listen.
Want to create more incentives for more investments, not in coal-fired power plants, but into that energy future. And Joe, you know as well as I do, follow the money. Where are we going to be in 2030 and beyond is going to be more on renewables and more on electric vehicles. I'm not saying transitions are easy, and I'm not saying they're very fast. But we have to do everything we can to accelerate them, because otherwise, if we don't, that's when we're dependent on people who don't share our values.
Okay, so if you're a fossil fuel company, you just don't share our values, right? You don't share. You're trying to make sure that. Think about the infrastructure for a second on the diesel trucks, right? You want to accelerate this. These diesel trucks, right, that literally bring the fuel to the power plants that actually run the electric power plants, then that the electric cars are fueled off of. How are you going to do that? If you're
Yeah.
cutting back on the fossil, you're cutting back on this infrastructure, the rail lines and the coal and the diesel. How are you going to
Are
do
those
it?
the same? Are those the same values that got rid of the guy that invented the diesel engine to run on vegetable oil, and then they put something in it to make it so you can't make your own fuel? Is it those same values?
Oh yes, this guy. Oh, what is that? There's a documentary on this guy, right? He
Yeah,
like
the
we're
diesel
gonna-
guy. His
Is
name
it
was Diesel.
Doc Brown?
right? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
No, and Diesel was on his way to the United States to give a speech, and he somehow disappeared in the ocean on his way here, and nobody ever heard from him again. And he created the diesel engine so that farmers could use their crops to run their own machines and be self-sufficient. But they purposely take that diesel engine and put a thing in it now that it has to run fuel. Willie Nelson actually runs his bus off of vegetable oil and stuff, like off of a diesel engine. So it can be done, but you have to manipulate it. Where the way it was invented was to be that way originally.
So diesel is probably in the same place that Nikola Tesla went to, right? When you start creating
Probably.
stuff that's
Yeah.
that's not profitable, that you can't make money off of, you disappear. Like,
And I love
Yep.
how this dude on CNBC is like pretending he's a hippie, as if like, hey, we're going to clean energy. It's going to be super great for the earth. When, solar panels are made from silicone chips that take a lot of water, which are shipped around the world because the United States doesn't make them and put embargoes on them, which China has gone around, right? So this is not the clean, it's clean, but it's relatively clean, right? And so if you really want to be not dependent on people who don't share your values, then you got to go off the grid. Then you got to be self-sustaining on your own farm, right? That's really the only way to do it, is to live off the land.
go Henry David Thoreau on this.
That's really it. So I don't want to hear any corporate speak about how you're so enlightened and hip because you drive a Tesla, right? Then no, that's full of contradiction. So really, if you're so really committed to not living on companies or countries or energy that is inconsistent with your values, you can't be on TV. Then you got to shut up.
I love this side of you, turning me on.
What do you mean? It's just everything has.
No, I just
you
like
sit
it.
on these leather seats in Tesla. Like, what's the carbon footprint of that? What's the carbon footprint of getting a solar panel? Like,
This
yes,
guy-
I'm all for it.
This guy goes to a CNBC studio in New York City. He took a Lincoln Town car that they sent him. Right?
Yes,
Right?
I've been in many of those.
That these, and he's a guest on television. Of course, they're bringing him. They're all
And
of that.
he's like, "Oh, this is where the money is going to be. That's where."
And how many
this is where
screens
it's
did he
gonna
have
be,
running?
Right? Sure, it's all right for some, right?
Right,
and it's
But the transition, you're going to have to feel it, right? So CNBC did a good job.
like, you're a real hippie, dude. I'm sure you're eating eggs from your own ass chickens.
your own ass chickens. Dude, I love this side of you.
What
You
is an
can't
ass
out
chicken?
hippie
Just
me,
sorry.
right? Like, so don't even try. And I am somebody who always wants to think about how to get off the grid, how to be more natural. I ate my own placenta, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm just telling you, I'm a big hippie, right? I'm that person. But I don't want to hear someone saying oh, we're so much better than everyone else because we're moving to this type of energy. What?
I just
Did
please.
you eat it
I just want you to.
deep-fried,
I just want you
like
to
sushi?
Yeah, I just want you to clip that piece. We're just going to run that anytime.
You can't unhippie me. I ate
own
my placenta.
Just going to drop that in at random comment moments.
Encapsulated as a pill.
As a pill, okay.
Yes.
Because it helps with milk production and so forth.
It absolutely does. Okay. I'm just telling you.
All these people in there, they're like, what? You did what?
I mean, I'd eat mine if I could, being honest.
Oh my God.
All right. So I'm
can I go
just
back to
saying
what I was
that
gonna
guy
say?
fails on the hippie scale. He's just saying where
oh,
the.
no, she did not.
Yes, I did.
Oh my, this lady is crazy, Thomas said.
fine.
Yes. She's
I don't care what you say about me.
bat,
I ate placenta pills.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
bat
What's
shit
the guy-
crazy.
I'm pretty sure we just made the hippie bar unobtainable for the majority
Come
of the
at
people
me,
on
bro.
Earth.
Come at me.
What's the guy's name
I
that
use
did
cloth
that gave all of
diapers.
his employees raises?
Oh, man.
The tree hugger guy that gave all of his employees
Dan
$70,000.
Price. Yeah, Dan Price.
Dan Price, yeah. He's no Dan Price, that guy.
I bet we just out hippie Dan Price with that. All right, so
Yep.
CNBC did a really fantastic job of actually pressing White House Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on this issue, pointing out that this utopia of moving towards a green revolution was poorly planned. Listen to now Joe Kern over at CNBC. He takes a long time to ask a question, okay? He took like a minute to ask this question, but it's a really interesting way of getting to this question, and watch Mayor Pete's response to this.
I have kind of a philosophical question about how we approach things in terms of dealing with emissions and dealing with trying to cut down on the use of fossil fuels, and how we deal with what Europe might be facing. And what I mean by that is there are real possibilities that people might not have air conditioning during a heat wave, or in the winter that they may not have enough energy to heat their homes at this point. Now, the mitigation factors that we're employing to try to cut down on emissions, those really aren't going to cut CO2 emissions till probably 2030. And while we're dealing with these, we've got India building coal plants, we've got China building coal plants, just hand over fist and emitting and not really helping our efforts whatsoever. When wind and solar won't power the homes in Europe, how do we not use hydrocarbons to make sure that near term these people aren't either freezing or dying from the heat? It seems like a real quandary at this point to try to do these, to near term try to do these things when near term we need power, we need energy. So how do you declare,
well, I will say,
how do you declare a climate crisis in the middle of an actual weather crisis?
Well, look, obviously those two things are closely related. I mean, it's more than 100 degrees in London today, or at least it was yesterday. We've seen things happen in the Pacific Northwest in the U.S. that are supposed to be basically all but statistically impossible, and they're happening more and more often. But this is what a transition looks like, right? This is exactly the challenge that we're living through. You can't flip a switch. You can't do it overnight.
Oh, but you can. You're full of shit. You can flip a switch, because that's exactly what you guys did. You flipped a switch. You shut down all of this stuff. You flipped a switch. You cut down, you literally ended thousands of pipelines. You flipped a switch on the Keystone pipeline. You flipped a switch.
Yeah.
You can do it overnight. You are full of shit.
That's what the pandemic taught us. We turned off everything. During the pandemic,
Yeah.
we shut down all business.
That's what you did.
Sure.
So you can do that. And so again, we come back to the word transition. Here you go again. Here you go again. You know, it's the transition, the word transition over and over again. This is what a transition looks like, he says. He's actually astonished. He was actually asked this separately. He had the audacity, he had the balls, Mayor Pete did, to actually say that he's astonished that more people haven't bought electric cars yet. We've been screwing them over by cutting off all these fossil fuel pipelines and everything, and the gas prices are so high. I'm astonished that you haven't spent $60,000 to buy an electric car yet, you morons. Listen.
I'm still astonished that some folks, and I felt this, I was testifying in Congress yesterday, some folks seem to really struggle to let go of the status quo.
They're just struggling to let go of that gas car that they bought with their own money, and he can't believe it. He really can't believe that this is something that they won't let go of. It's, I mean, really astonishing. And it's so condescending.
Okay, but then we should ask you, Secretary of Transportation, why the United States is so slow in the rollout of charging stations, right?
Yeah, the infrastructure is awful.
Because we have to drive places, right? It's a chicken or egg. I'm back on the chickens today. Yeah. It's a chicken or egg type thing, right? And it's not a lack of desire. Nobody likes going to get gas. It's like going to a slot machine that just takes your money, right? These days. So it's not like there's a resistance because there's lack of desire. But again, you know, every time I talk about this stuff with my dad's like, well, where's this energy going to come from? It costs water to make electricity, a lot of it, right? And so if everyone is running on electricity, electric cars, electric houses, right? Where's that going to come from? Like, we need to ask, we need answers to those things before we just think that there are these magical green things that we all buy into, like the Clean Air Act that we just talked about, which actually made the air dirtier. We need to understand these things before we all commit to them.
I mean,
But
by
just don't
2030,
ever-
just to get solar and wind, like as Joe pointed out in that piece, like it's going to take that freaking long to get any of this stuff up and running. And by the way, when it is up and running and you see what Europe is dealing with solar and wind, like it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Well,
It's
and
not.
just if you ever come up with a technology on your own that is more sustainable, do not tell anyone, because you will end up. There was a guy that created an engine that ran on it was hydrogen, and it could got 99 miles to the gallon. Guess what? They disappeared him, and they bought the patent. The government bought the patent, buried it. Same as they did with the batteries. Remember the battery thing where they bought the patents for this battery that lasted longer than the lithium ones we use now, and they buried the patent.
Yeah, because there's no money in it, right? If they can't, if you can't keep buying these things and it's going to last you a lifetime, they want you to buy them every year, right? I mean, this is the tragedy of it all. And the White House says, again, this is the transition. It was all part of the plan. Here is another White House commentary. He was Amos Hochstein. Here he is, not in the CNBC studio this time. Here he is on the White House lawn talking about this transition. And listen to him talk about it multiple times. So they're really pushing this idea that you're going to have to deal with this pain through Putin's price hike to live in this transitionary period. Listen.
So it's about making a choice between what is the short term and the medium term so that we can make sure we have enough oil and gas to support us through the transition, and what are the kind of steps that we don't want the oil and gas industry to take that would have long-term consequences when we don't want new major projects that would take 20, 30 years to become profitable. So we have to make that differentiation to make sure that the American consumer has what it needs to grow our economy and the global economy, but not take steps and endanger the climate work that we're trying to do to make sure that we're on a better footing to accelerate the transition. So it's about...
Sorry, I was trying to pause there at the very end there, Philip, because I wanted to see, like, you have all these guys in the White House lawn mowing the yards.
Yes.
With gas-powered.
On gas-powered mowers.
Making a choice.
Look at this guy. He's like over his shoulder, literally, with gas-powered motors. Like, and you see that like the trucks are going by, all the landscaping crew using all gasoline. I mean,
impeccable timing.
It's unbelievable. Hey, we're going to have a guy go out and talk about clean energy and how Americans are paying more for gasoline and how you can't have your gas-powered cars. Let's make sure all of the lawnmowers are right out here at the same time, mowing the White House, using gasoline on the White House
that
lawn.
you can't have. The government can afford it.
They don't make electric mowers, do they? Oh wait, yeah,
yes, they do.
I have one.
I have one. Yeah, it's one of the Ego. I have one of the Ego ones, the EV Go.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, the lithium-ion battery ones.
Do they make ride-on ones?
I don't know about that.
Not that I've seen that. They probably do, but I've not seen one.
Here's Gina McCarthy. Gina McCarthy, another White House climate nut. She's the White House climate advisor, talking about how we are needing to move towards wind power as quickly as possible. Listen.
He's going to make it clear that just because Congress couldn't get it done, he is going to move forward with every power available to him to make the change and the shift to clean energy.
Can you quiet down back there? Because you're running the yard mower back. I'm trying to talk here on CNN. Can you quiet down back there?
Should we have a talk about noise pollution?
Right.
While we're at it?
Can you stop with the gas-powered leaf blowers, please? I'm on TV here. I'm doing television.
I just, I'm losing track of all the things that we're told need executive action because the courts are failing us, Congress is failing us. Like, is this a democracy where everything does require now executive action?
This is not a democracy at all anymore. I mean,
can I ask
first of all,
what
we were
actually does work?
But, yeah.
What is working right now?
Like, what is one thing that's working right now? Give me one example of something that's actually working. I mean, maybe Medicare. Maybe
the post office. Is the post office working right now? Can you get a letter to somebody? I mean, it's better than it is.
Corporatocracy.
Well, hey, I mean, okay. You want me to find the silver lining? We're broadcasting, and we are not supported by the mainstream media, and we have no relationship with any one government. We are broadcasting.
But we gotta walk on eggshells.
We've got rules that we don't love, right? But the fact that we're all here right now, all 10,000 of you, and all 5 of us, means that you have democratized. You have chosen something outside of the mainstream media that is different. That's just a little bit different, and so. that seems to be working right now. There are a lot of rules
Yeah.
that continue to be put on us that we don't like. That seems to be that, the powers that be don't want that to happen. So that's one thing.
Someone said in the chat that national parks are working. All right. So land, a mountain is working.
Nature is still working.
Yeah. Yellowstone is still working. The wolves in Yellowstone are still working and going after sheep or whatever.
Well, I mean, it costs I went to go through the Grand Canyon and I got there just as it was closing, and I got to the gate and they're like, it's $20. And I was like, it's $20 to get it. So no wonder the parks are doing good, because they charge $20 to see natural things.
You went to Wally World. You went to the wrong park.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not going to pay that. Here are my binoculars.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.